Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome to Leadership Live at 8:05 Talking Small Business. I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and thanks for joining me this evening. We're actually less than 1 week out from Christmas, so this year is year-end is sneaking up on us. But thanks for joining us tonight as the year ticks down. This is actually our last live show of the year, so definitely. This is going to be a great show. And then actually we have some great things planned next week. We're going to have a recorded show. I don't know if you may know, but you may not know that I launched my new book, the Masterpreneur Playbook, last Friday. And we had a great launch. We had special guests, including Precious Williams and many other people. So I'm going to put that up next week for Leadership Live. So definitely, if you want to see the recording of that, that's going to be what's available. So hopefully Tuesday night, if you're chilling, not sure what to do, that's going to be available, or you can see the replay afterwards. But looking forward to that. And then we're going to start the year off with one of our recurring guests, which is Jimmy Newsom. And, he's always talking great stuff about AI and really keeping us up to date with cutting edge digital marketing strategies, which is really what we need to succeed in business these days. But today, our focus is going to be how to create a high performing team. At the end of the day, the goal of most business owners is to create a sustainable business that can run without you. And the only way you can do that is if you have a team that can run it without you. So developing your high performance team is key. And it starts at the beginning. The sooner you start following these best practices, the sooner you'll have a higher performing team, and your team will be able to start running pieces of your business and eventually your whole business without you. So I'm going to meet up with Gene Bohensky. So Gene's our guest this evening, and we're going to talk about how to create a high-performing organization. And that's really what he's building right now. He's got a great business model that he's rolling out. He's already hired 40 people in the last 6 months, and he's planning to hire even more than that over the next 6 months. So, definitely people strategies, how to find the right people, how to bring the right people in, how to set them up for success when they get there, and how to support their success while they're there. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So excited to bring Gene Bohensky on. Hey, Gene, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Great to see you, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, no, welcome. Always good to have you as a guest. You're always doing great stuff and really sharing valuable strategies. So we'd love to have you on periodically to really provide value for the listeners. And so this is a great topic because many entrepreneurs and business owners, that's one of the challenges that they tend to have is hiring and making the environment so that people can be as successful as possible in their organization. So, you've been, building a new organization over almost half a year, maybe a little more than a half a year, almost a year. And, it's a pretty exciting time for you. Maybe take a minute to talk a little bit about what you're doing. And then we're going to dig into and look into detail more specifically of what you're doing as far as, building your team. So, talk a little bit about what you're doing now.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a history. I started on this journey 9 years ago when I started as a business coach, and I purchased a alternative board or tab business owner franchise in order, business coaching franchise. And I soon realized as I started that I was going to need some help, particularly help on helping me get new clients. So I started out about 8 years ago working on finding outbound callers based in the Philippines. And so from there, I hired my first caller. She was okay, but not really the best. And then I hired my second caller, Virginia Ame, who is now my business partner in the Philippines. We started on the journey together. First, she was my virtual assistant and outbound caller. And I learned about having an assistant and giving her the tools to be able to help me grow my own business. And, over time, as I grew my business coaching franchise, one of the things I always thought about is how my connections in the Philippines can help my business owners with their tasks and challenges in their running their day-to-day business. And fast forward to about a year ago, I made my first trip to the Philippines to meet my team. I think at that point I'd amassed about 16 people or so that were embedded at various companies doing work. And I met with my partner, Virginia. And over time, she convinced me to formalize and start a real locally based business and expand those services to clients here in the United States. And there were a couple of reasons for that. It was very difficult to manage people working out of their homes and not really being able to coach them or help them. And so we decided to start a full-fledged outsourced services business based in the Philippines. That's basically the history of how it started.
Okay, great. I mean, definitely, it wasn't really exactly what you were planning to do. And that probably wasn't in your 3-year plan 3 years ago or 2 years ago. But sometimes, opportunity comes based on, when you're prepared and trends that are happening, and just, your expertise and your relationships were a great fit for a need in the business market. So definitely it's excellent that you're taking advantage of that. So,
well, let me explain how this grew over time. I mean, I've been coaching business owners for 8 years and seeing them grow their business and see the things that worked and things that didn't. And watched, when you're in that arena coaching a lot of people and seeing a lot of businesses, you see what's working. And I think the key thing to start this is to know that anything that you're doing in business when you want to grow, it depends on getting other people to help you. And so, it's all about the people. So the first rule is it's about the people that you hire and the people that you work with, and finding those best people. One of the things that I discovered when I met the team that I had built in the Philippines was that they were amazing people. They were more capable than I realized. They were more able than I realized, and it was really just understanding that they could do a lot more than they were. And also they had the will to go further and help start a business. And so, when it comes to, back to the topic of our talk, when it comes to building out an organization, a high performing organization, it starts with people. It starts with having the best people, being able to trust them, and understand that they can do the work for you, and you can trust them and let them do it. Right. So the biggest challenge that business owners have, and, according to, your masterpreneur model, it's when you are growing your business, there's a certain time when you have to hire people and trust them. And someone told me once that you have to hire people that are better than you, trust them, and don't tell them. Right. So you have to be able to be in a position where you're finding fantastic people, you're giving them a responsibility, you're communicating to them what you expect to them, and let them go and trust them. Right.
So definitely, there's you mentioned the Masterpreneur Playbook, and actually, before we go, I want to just introduce it a little bit more, especially in the context of what we're talking about. So, those of you who are familiar with the Masterpreneur Playbook, it's really about your journey as an entrepreneur and business owner. So I call it the Masterpreneur journey, the journey you have to take, the key or the secret to going from startup to scaling your business. Most business owners never get there, partially because they don't know how to get there. So this unlocks the key to how you get there. So there's two pieces. There's a Masterpreneur path, and the path is the path that your business has to go on. So, you start out working on the concept of your business, get in business, and then you end up working in your business. From there, you got to figure out how to work on your business. And most business owners never really get the working on your business right. If you happen to get it right, then you can work on the future of your business, developing strategies to scale. And once you figure that out, then it's about scaling your business. So those are the 5 steps from startup to scaling your business. But not only that, there's what the business has to do, but there's also how you have to evolve. You have to really go through change or metamorphosis at each stage to be able to successfully lead your organization through that stage. Going from an entrepreneur ideas to employee supervisor, where you're working in the business. Then you got to shift to being a manager, which is a whole different role if you're going to do it successfully. But you can't really be a manager if you don't have employees and supervisors. So, you have to backfill your team. So, if you're going to be an executive, that means you have to have managers. And then that takes different skills, because if you have managers, it's their job to manage. You have a different job. And then the next, even to a CEO. So each stage you have to evolve, and understanding how to do that successfully. And generally you have to have help. Most people don't make it through all 5 stages in their career. But usually, if you're working for someone, you might be lucky to make it through 2 stages, maybe 3, but usually, you're going from employee to supervisor. Maybe you make manager, but most, that's probably 1 in 100, if that. So definitely, it takes a lot to be an entrepreneur and do that successfully, and then build behind you so you can repeat yourself. So that's why it's real important what we're going to talk to Gene about today. So Gene, when you were thinking about the organization, I definitely failing to plan is planning to fail. So given that, you had business plans and strategies for how you're going to build your business, especially knowing that it's people intensive. What were some of the key components of what you wanted to put in place as far as your strategy for developing your business the way it needs to be? in terms of your team?
Well, the first thing what we thought about, and this was that we thought about this early on, my partner Virginia, who, by the way, I couldn't do it without her. She, having a partner or having somebody at a very high level that you can work with, that's on the same page with you, is critical to making this work. And so I have to shout out to her that none of this could happen without her. My whole career I've looked for a business partner, and it turns out she's the one to do this with. And one of the things that we thought about early on is this was going to be a big business, right? If this is going to be something that is going to be a solid business, especially based in the Philippines, you're going to have to go to hundreds of people in order to make this, in order to have the revenue correct, in order to reach some of the goals and do things right. You have to scale it to the hundreds of people, if not greater. And that presents a couple of challenges, right? So when there's often been said that, that business growth happens, from 1 to 3, and then from 3 to 10, and from 10 to 30, and 30 to 100. And each step requires a really different type of management. When you're looking at building an organization that has 100 people or more, you can't do this yourself. You cannot. The amount of people that are involved goes beyond your ability to manage them all. So you have to understand at a very early stage that you can't manage them directly. You have to build a structure with a management team that is going to be eventually do the management of the people and do the management of the work. As you grow it, you're involved, but you're always thinking about how you have to pluck out or hire people that can be the managers later on in your absence when you can't do it anymore. Now, the same goes for if you have a business that has, clients in the 70 to 100 range. I kind of think that a human being, you can handle 20 or 30 clients, and after 20 or 30, you really are at the limit of your own ability to manage and keep those details. It's just like when you're at a company, there's also a limit to how many people can report to you. You can't have 100 people report to you. It's possible. It just goes beyond your limits. So when you start looking at scaling, you have to understand that the scaling and the work has to be done by other people than you. And that's a very important realization that occurred to me. It's fundamental, because then you have to build the systems, and you have to build the communication and the ability to explain and communicate your philosophy and company mission and goals and culture without you actually doing it yourself. You have to create the culture that can replicate and work without you. You have to build a system in a business that will run without you. And because there's no other way to grow a large organization. And to many of you business owners that are just starting out, or maybe you have concepts and you want to scale it, the earlier you understand these concepts, the better. Because then when you're looking to hire people and you're looking to put people in roles, you understand that you're going to have to get out of the way. You're going to have to give them the responsibility. You're going to have to train them, and you're going to have to let them run with it. And you're going to have to trust them. You have to do all those things, and you have to understand that that's going to come. It has to come if you want to grow your business. And a lot of people have a hard time with that. I think alone the concept of doing that is hard for many people, especially if you've been in business for a long time and you've done things the same way. I mean, one of the things about this business that I'm starting, Archer's Contact Solutions in the Philippines, is that we have the luxury to do a lot of this stuff from the beginning, right? So we put together the plans from the beginning, and we were able to create a lot of the infrastructure. And again, I got to hand a lot of that out to Virginia and her ability to hire and to do some of the things that I wasn't even involved with. She did a fantastic job. And that's another thing. You have to trust your partner. You have to trust the people that you are investing in, that they're going to do a great job for you. And so far, they've done a fantastic job.
Okay. You hit on like quite a few key things. I just want to kind of just point out some important stuff. But one of the first things is, even in my first book, you got to decide what type of business you want to be. Do you want to be a hobby business? Do you want to be a, sole proprietor? Or do you want to be an enterprise? And if you want to have a business that's sellable, that can run without you, that's an enterprise. And it's key to start thinking like an enterprise when you start, or as early in the process as possible, because you're going to make different investments. And you're going to do different things if you're going to build an enterprise, because there's structure you need to put in place. There's planning, even if it's just you. If you want to do that, there's certain things you're thinking about and setting up in place for the future. And, that's something that you did, and you had to do quicker because, you were building, you had to build your team faster. So, that's key. You mentioned that it's much better to build a culture from the beginning than to change a culture, which is entirely true, because people are used to things being a certain way. So to move them to where you may want them to be now can be a challenge. So you're probably going to have to lose some people. You're going to face resistance. And, so if you can set things up right from the beginning, it's a whole lot better. So we're going to talk about, things you did to set things up right from the beginning. Definitely, you were in a good situation because you had a relationship with someone that you're partnering with. A lot of times entrepreneurs are there on their own, but when you have a partner, a lot of times they may be better at certain things than you are, or can handle different things. So, you have someone else who takes ownership, comes at it as an owner as opposed to an employee. But also through your development, you can, we're going to talk about how you sort of create a culture where it encourages everybody to take ownership in the success of the business. And a lot of time businesses, that's not the case. But it's something that you can do if you plan to do it and you execute your plan successfully. So just, want to make sure we covered those things because that's key. Before we go further, I just want to take a quick break. As I mentioned, we launched the Masterpreneur Playbook. So let me just show you a quick video, a little bit about it. Then I'll be back with Gene talking small business. Most businesses are not growing, could be more profitable, and have cash flow issues due to lack of capital. What if you knew the secret to generating revenue, maximizing profitability, and acquiring capital when you need it? I'm Andrew Frazier, and I have developed a proven 5-step framework to take you from startup to scaling faster and easier. I laid it all out in the Masterpreneur Playbook. It's available now in both English and Spanish on Amazon, Audible, and my website, sbpru.com. Get your copy today to start selling more and making more sooner. Okay, well, welcome back. I'm here with Gene Bohensky talking small business. So Gene, let's talk about the first step. The first step is if you're going to have people working for you, you have to get people working for you. So that's, finding candidates and choosing the right candidates to come into your organization. So talk about how you planned to do that and sort of how you're executing on that, because you've had a lot of success in that area. What has been the secret to that success?
Well, I think the first early in the conversations with my partner Virginia, we kind of laid out what kind of organization we wanted to build, how we wanted to treat people, how we wanted the culture to be. Some of it is to do with we're providing virtual assistants and remote workers and sales workers for people in the United States, and we wanted to make sure that they are comfortable with the culture and our ability to express themselves and the ability to be happy in their roles. One of the things that I've learned, especially when you're providing this type of work, is that people have to be proud of what they're doing, they have to be happy with what they're doing, and they have to be treated well. And across cultures and even in the United States, many business owners don't respect or treat their employees well. And as a result, those employees kind of can't give the best to the job, right? So you have to create a culture where people are excited to come to work. They feel valued. They know that they're working in a special place. They know they're going to be treated well. And as a result, they in turn can treat our clients well and provide the best service to them. So that was something we talked about a lot. One of the things we had is over the many years, Virginia and I were helping to provide virtual assistants and sales help and callers for our clients. And a lot of times we had a hard time finding good people. We had a hard time managing them. Some of them weren't used to being, they needed coaching. Some of it is cultural, because not all cultures value people to express themselves freely, and especially provide their opinions in cases where they need to. So we kind of have to foster that a little bit. And we just wanted to be able to treat people properly. That's one of the things. Now, on the flip side, we also knew that we had to have high standards for hiring. So we needed to make sure that everyone has excellent communication skills, that they're able to do a good job in the fields that they do, that they have to go through training. They have to be able to go through a process where they're selected. We're selecting the best people in order to provide the best service to our clients, in order to treat them well too. So that's one of the things that we've done. Now, a lot of it is Virginia's credit, and we have a fantastic hiring team that she's put together there, where we have a full-time staff hiring and interviewing people and making sure that they're that they meet the standards. One of the challenges that small business owners have when you're running a small business is you really don't have a lot of experience hiring. And a lot of people, when they're hiring their first people, they make a lot of mistakes, and they don't really know how to vet someone. Really don't know how to interview somebody. A lot of cases, I recommend to my clients to outsource interviewing and make sure that they have strict hiring standards, that person coming in is going to fit your culture, is someone that is going to do well in your organization. And you also have to be able to communicate what that culture is that you want, and that person fits in, because you don't want the wrong people in the culture. You don't want the wrong people on the team. So it's critical that you understand what your culture is. In our business coaching practice from the Alternative Board, we have a lot on business culture, where we help business owners define their business culture so that they can communicate it not only to their clients and customers, but to their employees, so the employees fit in and are not at odds with the culture that you're trying to build. So a lot of that we did was very deliberate. And I think any business owner that wants to grow an organization, They have to have, a vision statement for their organization and a mission statement, and they have to understand what their culture is and communicate that to people. That's the only way you can grow an organization well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, definitely as you grow, you have to communicate because you can't be there. Like if you're there every day, they can kind of pick it up from you. But once you grow beyond a certain level, it has to be clearly and well communicated and supported. You may want a certain culture, but everything you do has to be aligned with that culture. So if you say you want this, but you're accepting that, which is in conflict with this, you're never going to have this culture. So,
Right.
You really have to be clear about what you want your culture to be, or it's just going to turn into whatever your employees decide they want it to be based on who you have. And that's never a high performing team, or very rarely. So we talk a lot, and one of the things that you talked about was you had a really great hiring manager because she was really good at figuring out who the right candidates are. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how she's able to do that, what skills she has, and what that really brings to the table for your organization?
Well, she's fantastic at just being able to well, first we're looking for communication skills, so she has them herself, and they go through a round of interviews. So having the ability to vet people in a I guess in a very non-emotional and dry way is a way to do it. You look at what people's capabilities are. She's done a fantastic job at being able to vet candidates and look at them in a very neutral way. So I think that's very important. In a very objective way, not subjectively, and that we have also our standards. We also, at the flip side, we also have a month-long training program for them, and they actually have to go through the training and primarily to get them used to the kind of clients that we bring on, because our clients have a tendency to be a little bit more sophisticated and demanding than maybe the average person would want, and so we have to make certain that they fit. So we do have like a basic standard on communication skills, but then when they get in, a lot of times that I find a lot of the things that make people really good at their job and a lot of the talents they might have might not be on that resume, right? So one of the things that we do is, in a lot of resumes, most resumes aren't really very useful, right? I mean, most people have learned to game the system and they make a standard resume and they all kind of are similar. So how do you actually find that person behind the resume? In our case, when you're looking at providing assistance, business owners have a wide range of requirements. I mean, they want people to do bookkeeping and social media posting and manage their emails and be able to write and be able to make phone calls. I mean, they're looking for really great all-rounded candidates. And so we have to do additional work to understand what the capabilities of each of our people are. Some of them might get their capabilities from their hobbies, right? So the Philippines is one of the top users of social media, right? So more than the United States. So a lot of the people that we hire have a lot of experience doing social media posting, making TikTok videos, making social media posts, and so they can cross their hobby and personal experience into something very useful for business in a way that they themselves might not have known. So we do a lot of that with our people. And the other thing that we do is we do a DISC behavioral assessment on all of our employees. And that uncovers a lot of potential talents. A behavioral assessment, if anyone's known about DISC, it puts a person's behavior in a hierarchy to see what things they naturally do and what things that might be challenging for them. And we've been able to match people with their roles based on using their DISC assessment as one of the components, and that seems to have worked pretty well. I've been using DISC as a tab coach now. It's one of the things we use to coach business owners. I'm very familiar with it and able to see a lot of potential talents, potential capabilities that people have. And of course, I guess, you have to believe in people. You have to like people. You have to want to see success with people and come at this in a very positive way and enable people to reach their own goals and their own potential in the role, whatever role that is, because they're going to be a lot happier if they're matched with the right people and they're doing the work that they like to do and want to do and might come naturally for them. And so when you're dealing with a lot of clients and you have a pool of people, you can kind of play a bit of a matchmaker and put that together. And I think that's kind of our secret sauce of our business. And that seems to be working pretty well for a lot of clients. It's not 100%. And we can make adjustments along the way. And that's a pretty complicated answer to your question.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you halfway answered my next question, so, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm still going to ask it. Right. So, once you've found people to interviewed them, and selected people, then you got to onboard them, and making the investment up front generally pays a lot of dividends, but most people and organizations don't make that investment. So then they're not setting their people up for success. We talked a little bit about, you do the DISC so you can understand them. There can be hidden talents that might be able to benefit you and your organization that you may have to bring out and help figure out what they are and how they could fit. What are some of the other strategies of onboarding people? Because usually the way people are brought in has a huge impact on their view of the organization, their view of how they should work within the organization, and their success at the organization. What are some of the strategies you do to help make that happen more successfully?
Well, first is that month-long training program that we do. We have people that are dedicated to training and are experienced in it. We put them through standardized programs that we've developed, and then we also have a lot of them shadow some of the people that are working with clients, so they get to see what they're doing. There's a lot of tools that people are expected to know. And I think a vision that we have for the company is that when we have a virtual assistant or somebody that is provided, they have to be familiar with a lot of the tools that they're going to be using with their clients. So they're going to need to learn the email tools, CRM tools, in some cases accounting software. We have our own default CRM that we use, that we train people on, and then we train people on other customer software. So we get people to understand that they're going to have to use different software packages. And then, of course, there's an entire onboarding process that occurs when we match them up with the client, right? So we get an understanding of the client expectations and some of the goals that they have. And some of this is what I've learned from business coaching. I mean, you have to understand what the organizational goals are for their own organization and why they want to have a virtual assistant, or why they want to bring in somebody for sales. And we want to make sure that that person that we're providing for whatever role that they're providing, that they're supporting the client's goals and needs. Not only that they understand the vision for what they're doing, but they're also understanding the software that they need to use. And even some cases, we are the one that are helping our clients start up with the software. Like, we have a new client and we're helping them develop their first CRM, customer relationship management tool. And we're going to be providing our person as an expert that is going to make sure that that CRM works for the client. So we even go even more than just being an assistant. We're actually coming in almost like a consultant with the manpower to do the work. So that all comes from training and setting up the expectations in advance so that we understand what success looks like for both the employee and the client. And then we also make sure that that person is managed internally so that that success can be realized. And if there's any problems along the way, we could make adjustments. Sometimes we have to change the people because there's not a perfect mix, or maybe there's some additional training that has to be done, and maybe the client needs better understanding. But that onboarding is important. That onboarding is important, not only onboarding in our organization, but onboarding with clients, because we're providing remote work.
Okay. No, definitely. And, actually that lines up with, one of the quotes or things that I talk about a lot is, really to be successful in business, you got to be proactive, you got to be creative, and you got to be flexible. And through your organization, you're doing that. You're solving problems before they become problems. You're creative in how you do them, and you're flexible. If there's a problem or whatever, your organization knows to adjust. And, that's key to really making that work. So now we talked about hiring and finding the right people. We talked about onboarding them. Now they're there, you can't just like leave them there. What do you do to keep people motivated, to keep the culture that you want? What are some of the things that you do and you've put in place to be able to do that successfully?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things that we do. We try to build a lot of team unity by having a lot of team events. So there's a lot of things that we do. We had a nice big Halloween party. There was a Christmas party. We try to schedule those on a regular basis. I try to fly out there 4 times a year. When I'm out there, we usually have big get-togethers. So we want to get together the team and make sure that they know they're a member of the team. Other things we do internally on a day-to-day level, as I mentioned, we have all of our people that are working with our clients. All those people also have a manager, and that manager is not just there to make sure they meet KPIs. So I mean, we actually are working with bringing on somebody that is working for another outsourced services company, and a lot of them, especially run by foreigners, they kind of treat people like they're a sweatshop. Like, it's like all high pressure based. Everything is based on numbers. They even create fake performance criteria to hold you accountable, and they pay you based on that. And it's very impersonal and numbers driven, and it's like cracking a whip to make sure these people are answering enough emails and making enough calls and filling all their quotas. And the entire human element is not present in that kind of model, right? So yes, we do look at performance, especially when our clients are requiring performance. We do make sure that we meet the minimum standards that our clients do. Internally, we always have ongoing training and ongoing coaching, especially for some of the campaigns that require, maybe a sales success. I mean, we have clients that expect a level of success, and a return on investment on the campaigns, and we are always pushing people, and training them to do a better job. Um, and that is not necessarily done with a whip, right? So you have to really understand what you're doing to help those people do their job better. It's different than scolding them and yelling at them that they can do their job better. Do you understand? A lot of the old style of management is screaming at people and telling them when they're doing something wrong. And, that doesn't really work that well, in my experience, because then people clam up, they do the minimum, there's internal resentment, right? I mean, a lot of business owners I know do this, and it's something you have to avoid. People cannot do their best when they're afraid of being yelled at, right? And I don't want that kind of culture in any business. It doesn't work. You can't get good results that way. You have to coach, you have to teach, you have to have people that want to do better internally. And the only way that you can do that is by fostering a culture of coaching and help, where they're interested in doing better. They want to do better for their client because they want to do better for themselves, right? And they want to go home with a smile on their face that they did a good job, right? You can't do that by yelling at people. And that's one of the things we try to avoid. So we try to foster a culture where people are learning together and they're learning from each other. And I think that helps so far to with retention, and also with their performance. They're doing a better job.
What? You don't yell at your people?
I've been yelled at. I worked for a guy that used to yell at everybody, and he had no idea what kind of what he really left behind. Right?
Mm-hmm.
People clammed up, and they all complained, and they only did the minimum.
Yeah.
And I remember when the guy screaming at his employees when they were 2 minutes late from break. Right? What does that? Yeah, okay. He lost 2 minutes for the break, but he didn't realize that employee slow walked his work for the next 2 hours, pissed off, and his productivity was probably in half. And that's what happens, right? I saw that with my own eyes, and I never treated people like that.
Yeah.
And you can't build a culture around that. But too many people do, and it's especially prevalent in other countries, right? So some of the third world countries, and you know what I'm talking about, where people are treated like animals. They can't really, you can get productivity out of them, but you can't really get their best. You can't really get people to engage and do the mental work, right? So when you're training people, when you're expecting people to engage mentally and give their best, right? Where they really are thinking and they care about what their job is, and something happens, and there's an option. Do I tell my client that this can help them, or do I not tell them because that guy's a jerk, right? I mean, that's the mental decision that is made in thousands of people, right? Who don't tell their bosses when something can be improved, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, definitely, that stuff is key. So we've been talking about the positives. We've been talking about the sunshine, but the sun isn't shining every day. So we got to talk a little bit about the dark side, or the rainy days. And not every single person you hire is going to be a success, but if you go through that process, a larger percentage will be. But there's always times when it's not the right fit, or not the right person, or not the right person at that time. So how do you deal with that, and what is your strategy and philosophy around that?
Well, we have a lot, at the beginning, we did lose a couple of clients. And sometimes we realized we weren't proactive enough in understanding when it wasn't working out. And one of the things that we did to counteract that is that every client where we place somebody to be an assistant or do a sales assistance role is that there's always a backup. And we tell people that there's a backup because there definitely has been instances where it hasn't fit. And we've had to make some changes, that some clients really didn't like the person that they were matched with. And but that person did a fantastic job, ended up doing a fantastic job for somebody else. So it's not always one of the things I learned about DISC is that there are natural incompatibilities with people. So if something doesn't work out, it's really not the end of the world. You have to expect that things in some cases aren't going to work out, right? You have to expect you're going to lose some clients. Sometimes those clients, at the end of the day, you want to lose them because they're not really the right clients. And that happens. We lost a client early on, and it was, we learned a lot from that experience. There was a lot that we did wrong, and we had to course correct. So as long as that you understand that process is important, the organization has to learn, and you're going to go through things that aren't going to work out. And we had some things early on with a client that was disingenuous with us, and we spent a lot of time ramping up for them. We hired a lot of agents for this one client, and they were just totally disingenuous with us. They didn't support us. They didn't help us when we wanted help. And I don't ever want to have a client like that again. But that was one of our first clients. Was incredibly bad. And you have to know which clients that you want to go with. There's customers you don't want to have. There's customers you need to fire, and sometimes it's painful. Sometimes it takes longer, and sometimes you lose money in those clients. Sometimes people are unhappy, and that's the downside. But that's part of the growth process. It's going to happen. So you better be prepared. And what you end up doing is not always what you expect that you were going to do at the beginning. I think this is my third or fourth business. And so I can say that for every single business that I've started, it's always ended up different than what I expected, So you got to be flexible to understand that that's going to happen. You actually have to look for that and understand that's what's going to happen if you really want to grow, because the opportunities will come and you have to be ready to take them.
Okay. And that's another example of needing to be proactive, creative, and flexible. You got to be proactive enough to notice change and, address it and not be complacent, and then figure out how you can solve it. So, we've covered a lot of stuff. One thing always, one of the sayings is be slow to hire and fast to fire. So, if you have someone that's not good, you need to make that change quickly, because that's going to affect your culture negatively. And I know you've done that a couple of times as well.
Yeah, I want to say something about that's very interesting. The Philippines has some interesting labor laws. And one of the things that they have is that you hire people really for the first 30 days on kind of like a training contract. And so there's an understanding out the get-go that there's a vetting period, right? So a lot of times people don't realize that there is a vetting period, and you have to understand that when you hire somebody, that if the person isn't right, you got to let them go. That was one experience I had with one of my first businesses. I had someone that wasn't good enough to praise, but not bad enough to fire. And I hung on to this person way too long. And because of that, the business really suffered. It was really the wrong person for the role. And I agonized that over this for over a year, and it sucked out all the energy from me. So, you know, you got to fire fast the people that are no good, but it's really the ones in the middle that are the hardest to deal with. And you got to let those people go too if you're agonizing over them. That's really my experience. That was a very difficult mistake when I look back on it.
Okay, no, great point. And the other thing is setting the right culture can get rid of people like that because they're not going to want to work there. So, setting the standards, being clear about what the expectations are in the culture. But unfortunately, a lot of times business owners don't really think about the culture until there's problems, or until they're made aware that they even need to. There is a culture and something they need to think about. So time really goes fast when we're here. So we're coming up on the 9 o'clock. So usually like to close it out with going back and sharing 3 key things that people should take away from our discussion tonight. So take a minute to think about those. And I'm just going to show a short video on the Masterpreneur Training Program, which we're launching for the first time in 2024. And, if you want to scale your business, this is probably what you want to check out.
Are you running your business, or is it running you? Is your business growing, and are you making enough money? Are you having cash flow issues, or do you need financing? Like most business owners, you probably don't have a strategic plan for 2024. Not to worry, we're going to help you make 2024 your best year ever. That's why we created the Masterpreneur Training Program. You'll learn from the experts about how to work on your business and not in your business, and scale your business for greater profit. The Masterpreneur Training Program is specifically tailored to help you gain advanced knowledge to be able to create a sustainable business that can run without you. The Masterpreneur Training Program will teach you to prepare yourself and your business for scaling successfully. The Masterpreneur Training Program features online and virtual activities that are measurably broader, deeper, and more comprehensive than other training programs. And the Masterpreneur Training Program is specifically tailored to help you gain advanced knowledge about working on your business rather than in it. If you want to make this happen even faster and easier, you should register for the Masterpreneur Growth Accelerator Program, an instructor-led program with a group of your peers. Register now to make 2024 your best year ever. Visit sbpru.com/masterpreneur-training.
Excellent. So definitely check that out. It's going to be outstanding for people who participate. So, all right, Gene. So we're back talking small business. We talked about a lot of things as we went through the topic, how to create a high performing organization. And it's really all about the people. So what should listeners take away from our conversation today?
Well, first of all, as you said, it's about the people. It's about finding the best people you can and fill the roles with the most competent people and treat them well. You got to love them. You got to care about them. And they're going to do it for you. And they have to, because when you're scaling an organization, you certainly can't do all that work yourself. And the second is building the processes around that, building the organizational structure, and making sure that you set up a structure of people that can run without you. They need to be able to do the work without you and manage the work without you. And you're managing the processes on top. And the third thing, as a CEO, you got to get out of the way. You have to trust your people and your team. And I just have to shout out to my team in the Philippines that they're just the best. Virginia has done a fantastic job of building the team together. That is just a first-class team. Whether it's the hiring team, the accounting team, the training team, the individual managers and team leads managing the callers and the virtual assistants. They're all doing a fantastic job, and I'm proud of them. And they're doing it, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to be their CEO.
Okay, excellent. So, it's about the people. Find them, hire them, treat them well. You can't just do this by winging it. You have to set up processes and procedures and plan and really, have an organized structure around what you want to accomplish. And then, once you set things up, you got to let people do what they can do for you. You can't micromanage your managers, because then they won't be managing. You have to set the situation. Of course, in the Navy we had trust but verify. So it doesn't mean just, go do whatever you want. I trust you. but
Right.
but I trust you to do stuff, and we're going to go over and make sure that it's getting done and that things are going well. So
one thing I did not mention is we do have KPIs, right? That for the business,
Yep.
and creating dashboards to monitor the performance, so that when there is an issue, we can react quickly. So
Yep.
that's something we also do.
Definitely. And that's another way that you trust but verify.
That's right.
100%. So Gene, this has been great. A lot of valuable knowledge, and you learned a lot through the process. I know you got a lot more to learn, but all this stuff is valuable for anyone who's going to have an organization that's going to be bigger than themselves.
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity to explain it all. It's great.
Excellent. So we definitely like to have you come back a couple times a year, because you're always doing cool stuff and have valuable stuff to share. So looking forward to having you back again in the new year, and wish you much success with what you're doing here. So let me close things out, but hang on while I'm doing that. Once again, thanks for joining in for Leadership Live at 805 Talking Small Business. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate your comments that they're in, and everyone. And wish you a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, or whatever you celebrate. Hope you finish the year strong, and I'm looking forward to making 2024 my best year ever. And if I can help you make yours the best year ever, I'd be glad to do that as well. So thanks again for tuning in. Look forward to catching you in the new year. And definitely a good way to start the year and prepare for your success is grabbing a copy of the Masterpreneur Playbook off of Amazon. It's in English and Spanish, and it'll give you a lot of valuable insights for running your business more successfully. So thanks again. And as you always know, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 805, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.